September 9th, 2021. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, former Senator and now current President of the American Constitution Society, Russ Feingold, on the legacy of 9/11. Also on the program today, the incredible corruption of Joe Manchin's daughter, how will it impact budget negotiations, which are ongoing, as committees begin the markup on the Democratic reconciliation bill. Biden administration announces it will sue Texas over its anti-abortion law. Biden administration also announces plans to go from 4% solar to 45% solar in our power grid over the next 25 years. Meanwhile, the White House also speaks new legislation for expanded green cards for Afghan refugees. And tonight, the Biden administration, or I should say President Biden, will announce multiple new initiatives to fight COVID, including vaccine mandates for all federal workers and contractors. Speaking of which, Los Angeles is the first school district in the country which will require vaccinations for all students 12 and over. Meanwhile, the Bill Gates designed COVAX misses its worldwide vaccination goals by over 25% this year. California Senate passes a bill curbing Amazon's labor model. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. We happened to notice our titling earlier today. We had a last minute switch. We had this interview with former Senator Russ Feingold, former Senator of Wisconsin. He was the only person in the Senate to vote against the U.S. Patriot Act, or the USA Patriot Act, I guess. And I caught up with him late last week to talk about the response that we had to 9/11, its legacy, and where we're at. So stick around for that. That's going to be quite interesting. And tonight, President Biden will be talking about a new round of initiatives to fight COVID. Still have many states where Delta is surging. Other states where this latest round of COVID surge followed the pattern of past ones, which is a steep incline, and then it hits some point after 2 months or so where it just drops precipitously. And they still, by they, I mean the experts, the epidemiologists, they still aren't quite sure why this happens. I've studied this many times before. I spoke to David Wallace back in maybe it was March. And he talked about in January, the CDC had run 27 models trying to predict, and remember, January was the peak in this country. 27 models as to where COVID infections would be, cases would be, just 4 weeks out. And 25 of those 27 were wrong. 2 of the models had it dropping, and that's what turned out to be. So there's still a tremendous amount that we just simply don't understand.
Yeah, like the coordinate deaths in its most recent wave, have you really worried about what the wave would look like when it got to like the Midwest, for instance? And for some reason, like in the Dakotas at least, the death rate hasn't followed the case rate like it did in Florida. And I'm not sure what's going on, even though like from what I hear that the hospitals are under significant stress
Yeah, it's really difficult to. I mean, I think honestly, there are many questions that we won't have the answers to for years after we get past at least this era of this pandemic, and maybe COVID ends up being endemic. But we shall see. Um, they'll be announcing those vaccine mandates tonight in a speech, and in honor of that, let's play this clip of former President Donald Trump on the Greg Gutfeld show, or Gutfeld show on Fox. Um, this is a comedy show, Greg Gutfeld show, and you know it's a comedy show because they have told their crew to laugh during it. But it's also a serious interview, but funny. We did not add this laughter. Let's roll the tape.
Because you had COVID. And my wife, you met my wife, I don't know, it was like 6 years ago in Mar-a-Lago. She's still not gotten vaccinated. And I keep talking to her to get her to get vaccinated, and she hasn't. What would you say to her?
Well, first of all, I'd say, why is she not doing it? Does she have some kind of religious thing?
No, she's skeptical. She's skeptical, doesn't trust.
Well, she's Russian.
Yes, she's
Let's get into that.
exactly. You can't argue with the Russian.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Very hard-headed.
Yes.
I think I know your wife a little bit, right?
Yes.
But she's great, and let her do what she wants to do. I got vaccinated, and I feel very good. I think we saved millions and millions of people worldwide. You know, in 1917, they say almost 100 million, approximately 100 million people died.
Yeah.
I think we could have been into that situation because it was very bad. And now, if you're vaccinated, the other thing it shows that if you do get sick, you don't get sick like they were before, meaning you don't die.
Exactly.
So I would recommend, but I also say that let her have her freedom. You know the word freedom, right?
Yeah,
And she needs freedom.
She needs a lot of freedom from me, I found.
I probably that's it. We're going to have to spend more time commenting on this in the second half of the program. So we have time for Senator Feingold. But that funny stuff. Funny stuff. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Senator Les Feingold. Folks, today's program sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp Online Counseling. They're giving our audience 10% off their first month when you go to BetterHelp.com/Majority Report. BetterHelp gives you access to your own fully licensed and accredited therapist via phone, chat, or video. A lot of therapists elsewhere have long wait lists. It takes months, if not weeks, months, before they can see you. But when you sign up for BetterHelp, they match you with a therapist based on your specific needs, and you'll be communicating with that therapist within 24 hours. Very stressful time. As far as I can tell, therapists are massively overbooked, and really hard to find one in your area. A lot of people, it seems to me, very legitimately, not terribly psyched to go in person. BetterHelp couldn't be a better time to sign up with BetterHelp. And once BetterHelp connects you with a therapist, if you don't think it's a good fit, for whatever reason, you can switch to a new one at any time, like I said, for any reason, and for absolutely no additional charge. They have thousands of licensed therapists from all over the country. They have therapists with specialties that may not be available in your area, may not be easy to find. BetterHelp also tends to be more affordable than therapists you find through traditional means. You don't need to have insurance to have BetterHelp, and they have financial aid options for those who qualify. BetterHelp is giving everyone in our audience 10% off your first month when you go to betterhelp.com/majority report. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/majority report. You can find the URL in the video description. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find it in our podcast description. Check it out. Also, once again, we'll talk more about this later in the program, but I want the opportunity to thank everyone. I'm just so proud of the way that this community was $32,000 for three organizations that help Afghan people resettle. We're sending a little bit more than $8,000 to the Afghan diaspora for equality and progress, $8,000 in change to the International Rescue Committee, and $8,000 to PARS Equality Center. We're going to send that out in the next couple of days. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll also thank our members who support this program. You can become a member by going to jointhemajority.report.com. And now, my interview with former Senator Russ Feingold from Wisconsin. We are back on the Majority Report. It is a real pleasure to welcome, I think, back, arguably, to the program, the former senator from Wisconsin from 1993 to 2011, and the current president of the American Constitution Society, Russ Feingold. Russ, welcome back to the program. So much appreciate you coming.
Sam, I look forward to it. Thanks for inviting.
Let's talk about, obviously, this is going to air on the, we're recording this a couple days early. This is going to air on the 10th, and obviously, the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. You were a sitting senator at that time, had been in office for 7 to 8 years, and I recall you wrote about that experience in a book. Tell us, I'm just curious. I was in New York at the time, obviously, and it was, we all have our individual experiences, but I imagine as a senator in Washington, that experience is fairly unique. Tell us about what took place on that day.
Yeah, I'd say fairly unique as an understatement. You talk about having this show on September 10th, and people about the difference 20 years ago between September 10th and September 11th. It was just completely out of the blue. There was just a feeling about this. It was zero innocent. I'm sure there was terrorism attacks. Like the idea that this dramatic event could occur in the seat of our finances, the seat of our government, was something that none of us were thinking about or preparing for. And it just changed everything in terms of our perspective, mood, and it was, there were elements of it where I was proud of the Americans and our response, and there were many elements that were very disappointing. Where things sort of fell apart quickly after a good start. So this is what I sort of wrote about in my book. We sort of, in the first few weeks afterwards, seemed to have a decent notion about how unjust it is, and then things started to really fall apart, especially with the passage of the so-called USA Hatred Act.
Yeah, I want to get into that. I actually just read your statement that you gave on the Senate floor in October of 2000. But tell us a story. You were with your staffers, and you moved, right? I mean, there was. Tell us about just like sort of just what happened on that specific day.
Well, I was actually with my staffers all my apartment, which I saw is directly across the street from the part of this building. And I guess it was about 8:30 in the morning on the East Coast. And one of my press secretary had me on the line for doing my interview. And we had already seen the first plane hit. And then right as the interview was about to start, he said, we all could see it on TV at the second plane. And, I then suggested that all the staff come out of the park building and come to my apartment. Which, as I say in my book, nobody ever came in my apartment. It wasn't always in a condition that I wanted it to be. But so they came over, and then all of a sudden, a David from the nation came ramming on the door saying, "Gotta get out of here." And I could see out the window that all these little kids were sort of running, kind of laughing over the Supreme Court grounds. I thought, why are the police not stopping them from running all over the ground? little bit of a move.
And so you as a senator didn't get any sort of like, it doesn't sound like you had any more insight into what was happening than the general public. And just to remind people who might be too young, when the first plane hit, the first report of it was that it was a small plane and that it was a horrible accident. And then there was like, then that narrative started to crumble a little bit, that somebody had seen a bigger wheel. And I remember listening to Howard Stern actually, and someone had called in and said there was, I saw a bigger wheel. And then of course, once the second tower hit, it suddenly dawned on everyone that this was on purpose. And there was no further information that you as a senator.
Very hard to get information because we didn't have the systems we have now. We would get these persons would call them, right? Or they would call us for votes, or they couldn't really even send us a message. It was very brief. One of the funny stories was hardly the name of something from that day. Congressman Simpson, he and I were very conservative on the Republicans in Wisconsin. He somehow got a message whether or not he and I could probably join Christian. And I said to my family, what the hell are we going to do? We're here. So there was this really, finally, after a couple of hours, a couple of my staff members in my car, because we were right near this. Why don't we go down to the Capitol Police Station, which is just below the Hart, just a couple of blocks below the station. So we went down there, and it turned out there was sort of this rough Congress day. There were like 50 of them. Some of them were right wing members of the House, others like Joe Lieberman. Just no rhyme or reason, but we got a briefing from the Senate President, and he goes to a platform and started to explain information. And then the crazy part was some of the Congressmen were saying things like, "Well, we got to start making decisions," like we were in charge, right? But in fact, the leadership had been spirited away to a quote undisclosed location. And they were meeting somewhere else. So we were on and off in the Capitol Police Building. We did Senator Fox over there. We were most of the day until it was sort of a conference call with Senator Dad, who was your minority leader, or sort of some of the ideas about when we would meet the next day and so on were coming together. It was a long, very strange period.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Patriot Act and sort of like where things began to, I guess, go off the rails to some extent in terms of our response. I mean, George Bush initially was pretty adamant about not blaming Islam and Muslims, and his initial response was there was also a lot of jingoism and a lot of sort of that the country was largely in shock at this point. And they wanted, and you made this point quite clear in your statement in October of 2001, October 25th, I think it was. They wanted to push the Patriot Act through. I think it was about 10 days. It was probably, I think like they introduced it on like September 19th, maybe it was. And they wanted it ratified September 21st. And this was a massive overhaul.
Não sou filtrado, eu estou a fazer essas porras. Eu escrevi por e-mail. Não, eu não recebi e-mail. Às 7 da manhã. Não, é que temos de estar às 6. Bem, eu acho que o hotel também percebe, não é? Vê se os fazem, vê se podemos deixar lá as coisas também, né? Para andarmos. Sim, as mochilas. Acho. Certo, certo, certo. Claro, 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 claro. E seguiste agora, foi? Sim. De novo doutoramento. É tudo. Deixa lá. Certo. Sim, os upper-ups sabem e depois eles podem corrigir. Uhum. E esse é trabalhar nesse sítio. As brancas não são grande coisa. As brancas que eu comprei têm mais espaço para respirar. Lojas cirúrgicas ou aquelas brancas que comprei já. Aquelas que comprei não são nada mais. Aquelas que eu comprei de junto. Mas lá que não tenho nenhuma para ver. Eu também já percebi que não me dou bem com elas. Ok. Porque hoje, mas quais é que foram usar os dois? Qual é que foi a disciplina 2? Foi a da Oles? E ok. Está a dar-te novas perspectivas. Essa e o árabe são as três que tens? Ou tens mais? As três, ok. Orientar. Eu estive a fazer umas ilustrações tuas enquanto a tinta secava e agora estou outra vez volta do quadro. Acabei de sujar ali uma coisa que tenho que repintar. É aquela coisa de avanças para um lado, recuas para o outro. Mas vai andando.
Mas foda-se.
Quem foi agora?
Eu vou apanhar a bicha, 6h20. É mais a para você.
Certo.
Olha, meteste o telemóvel dentro do poço, ok?
Espera aí. Não. Pusei-o e pus em alta voz. Não, estava aqui ao meu lado. Pode dizer que está a ouvir o barulho da ventoinha. Oi? Está bem? Mas eu posso ir pôr os fones se a alta voz não funciona. Estás a vir então? Está certo. É? atividade. Ele está tentado a dormir, deitado, recostado. Já, a gente já se feitou. Já, os melhores desses.
That really struck you at first as very dangerous.
Well, that was a very accurate portrayal of the progression. In fact, we were able, under the leadership of people like Joe Biden, to really narrow the authorization for the military force, which is confused ever since. But the original drafted document, the Bush administration, was very good. It would allow them to, without any question at all, actually get the full territory. So those first few days, I felt it was a spirit of bipartisanship. I actually thought George Bush's first speech, just after 9/11, was the best speech I'd ever heard in person. And so in terms of when things started to go off the rails, it was when an expected bill started coming up. And that was a bill that was so updated on children of war. It was later named the USA Patriot Act. But what happened was, as was said on CNN, prospect conservative, was that an old wish list of the FBI was dusted off and thrown in the bill. It's one of these must-pass pieces of legislation. Just about everybody was afraid of voting against anything that was going after the terrorists. And as I tried to point out many times, maybe 90% of the provisions of the bill were fine. It made sense. For example, if you had a legitimate ability to get to eavesdrop in the wiretap, you could get the conversation, the live conversation, but you couldn't get the voicemail. That didn't do. There wasn't a very long statute of limitations for violence. So that makes sense. But then what was here the ACLU came to me, I was chairman of the Constitutional Subcommittee, and I took the unusual step of actually reading the bill. And I was able to see in 10 or 15 places where things that were really not generally connected to terrorism had been shoved in the bill. That there was some other authority to go after people's first business records, libraries, records, healthcare records, without any proof that somebody had done anything wrong. And so I started sort of saying, look, you couldn't have this bill. I was expecting to vote for it. Then I found this politics. And after the House was doing their bill, the Republicans and the Democrats on the judiciary committee were making a modified version, trying to clean it up like they did with the authorization to do it in multiple courts. And all of a sudden the process was shut down by the Democratic majority in the Senate. What you have to remember is the Democrats were the majority. There was that fear of the Republicans persuaded, which of course they did everything to attack, that they feel locally instead of it actually become very upset with them because they was not allowed. It was not given unanimous consent and moving forward for the amendment. So again, so it allowed the story of limited period of time to also be amendments. We got out the answer that everybody not voted in there, voted were actually Republicans who were supported them by now. Fred Johnson, Harlan Specter, as well as Maria Campbell, a Democrat, who was moved to the Senate. And yet the process was shut down in the hands of Democrats and state Republicans. And as a result, we ended up with a very full piece of legislation that continues to haunt us today. It was not properly vetted when it could have been. In fact, many of those provisions that I just mentioned were in fact not used for anything that was there before one time. Very used in domestic crisis and other situations.
Was there no talk of sunsetting any of those?
Some of them were. So that was one of the pieces. For example, Section 250. It was sunset for that. But most of it was not. And then for the sunset, there were some applications. By and large, the sunset was Senator Leahy, who was chairman of the Judiciary Committee, did get a couple of things, but most of it.
And were you ultimately the only vote against the USA Patriot Act?
Well, the only senator who voted against it, and Bernie Sanders ran for the Senate, and lots of Vermont campaign with it. said, Nate Larry, the second senator who voted against the Patriots, because he voted against the cops. And 50 members voted against the Muslim. When he said it, I didn't realize it. He was actually one shortly after a number of senators, people who were on my side, Don Saludo in New Hampshire, Vic Murkowski on the Republican side, but I'm not sure this was the right thing to do. He triggered coalition of about six senators in 2 years. We raised this issue, we stopped it. We, in 2005, the goal was not so in the past. We were trying to get changes. It became a real cause for weapons so they can further the state and the country and continue to fail. Montana, where people were worried about their government intruding on their personal life.
You know, you raised that the Democrats have a majority in the Senate now. The 2004 election, if I remember.
No, we do.
2002 they lost it.
Which, by the way, is what this is all about. They figured out how to exploit this terrorism thing, going after Max Cleveland, saying he wasn't patriotic because he voted against the Department of Homeland Security. Well, before long, Iraq, the Department of Homeland Security, these things were used to get back in the war. And this way, the number of Democratic senators who were running for president would vote for the Iraq war against the Homeland Security. It's a terrible move.
I mean, all of this is coming rushing back to the Jewish. I remember Max Cleveland, and we should tell people he was a vet who lost multiple limbs in Vietnam. And there was, if I remember correctly, he made an ad of him morphing into Osama bin Laden because of his votes. And people should understand that the Department of Homeland Security is 20 years old. We talk about things like ICE, where they came from. These things like fusion centers. I mean, all of this are, were innovations, I guess, at that time. What do you make? Was that essentially there was so much fear amongst Democrats in terms of like elected Democrats, the specter of, it seemed to me, of Vietnam, and Bill Clinton was elected as sort of like the post-Vietnam era, but it still feels like the idea of peaceniks or weak-on defense and whatnot, that specter dictated everything the Democrats did in that movement.
Yeah, it came roaring back until Iraq was really bad. And after the election in 2006, at that time, it was politics and different. But in terms of the moment when I really noticed that this was going to be exploited, you mentioned a minute ago, Sam, the first piece I worked was really quite a piece. The second one was scary. That's where he introduced the media access. All of a sudden, this guy, just a few weeks after 9/11, talking about Iraq, North Korea, and Iran, with zero evidence of any connection of any of them. And all of a sudden, they realized that Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bolshevik, all these guys figured out what we just said. The Democrats look at the same way they do, believe it was true. And so, sure enough, they went for it. They exploited the opposition with military forces, starting to move the wiretapping, move around outside of the statute. They started to torture. They exploited the Department of Homeland Security issues. And of course, they took us into war in Iraq, saying that completely false. That A, this is something to do with Al Qaeda, and B, that the weapons of mass destruction ready to be used for mass. By the time you get to the 2004 presidential election, people are quickly out. And Bush managed to win. In spite of the fact that the world was already very ironic.
What was the sense amongst your colleagues? I mean, were you blindsided by the reluctance? I mean, what does it feel like when? I mean, because I think and we should talk a little bit about what parts of the Patriot Act still in many respects context. But you offered a list of things from the manipulations involved in going into Iraq and lies involved in going into Iraq. The torture regime that the Senate ultimately, I guess maybe 5 or 6 years later, starts to do a report on, that like they're spied on by the CIA, as they're actually doing this report. I mean, what what was the sense of your colleagues? I have no idea of like what kind of conversations you have with your other senators, but were you? I mean, what did they express? Was it just sort of were beleaguered? Did they do anything about it? You're right. There's a problem, or was it? Look, that's not what this is about. I mean, what was that dynamic?
Well, it began, in some extent, later, a lot of it, including me, but I think this was a famous phrase in law school. The Constitution is not a suicide form. And, I put that in my critique on and I realized that, of course, it's not a suicide form. If you look at it in the decision by Justice Goldberg, that he actually stood up to the side saying that, yes, the Constitution is not a suicide form. But when the founders made the Constitution, they were not exactly on the street themselves. They were ready to get it all maintained. And so, you start off with this idea, well, this is so unusual, we're going to have to not really follow the Constitution. We're going to have to let the administration go across, so the unitary executive is very gradually, as the politics has shifted, as very conservative began to have constituencies saying, hold on, what are you doing? Then some Democrats senators started to get a little more interested in trying to support the court as the Iraq war started. Not really so after the initial notion that somehow there was a homicide. The shower was followed by people of the game. Now people became a little more emboldened and started to question the authority of those who had voted against it. Unfortunately, a majority of the Democrats were back up. The majority and we voted for the Iraq war, and the majority of the Congress voted for the Iraq war. And one of the main reasons that about Barack Obama became president, in addition to his great Britain, is that he's the only man, any kind of credible claim that he said something against war. Libya didn't have that, Libya didn't have that, and so what we ended up with was a situation where so many people wanted to get. I remember when I was a president related to getting out of Iraq, or the first one that was all the time taking it out of Iraq, as well as many from the paper, I would always see President Obama looking at each other to see how they were going to go behind them. Because at that time, they wanted to be associated with a more progressive questioning mode because of the president. They knew that the left was progressive. And the key states like Iowa, New Hampshire, and others would be looking to those that have credentials to handle from that question.
And so, I don't want to press too hard. Obviously, I don't want any names, but I'm curious as to you're not talking about, when you're talking about your problems with the Iraq War in the moment and the Patriot Act in the moment, you're subjected to the exact same pressures theoretically as everyone, the other senators there. Were they articulating a sense of like politically, I just can't do this, and I agree with you, or was it? Was there a mix? What was the range? Without I understand, we don't necessarily have to get into. But I'm curious about this dynamic because I think this is, the U.S. Senate. I think people are even more conscious of it now. Is an incredibly non-democratic institution in the context of a democracy. And certainly, as you go forward through the years from that time, you see there were senators who decided, like, you know what, we're not going to lower the age of Medicare to 55 because I don't want to. I'll say his name, Joe Lieberman. But so there are people, and it's not inconceivable that it was just because there was somebody on a blog who said something mean about me, and that's it. I'm not going to do. So it's hard, I think, for people on the outside to sort of say, like, how is it that you were able to look at this? And what were the reasons why other senators, who I imagine there were some at least, who had some sensitivity to this, was it just purely like from a political standpoint, if I don't do this, I'm not back here in 2003?
Yeah, I think probably what first of all I would say 20 years later and even 10 years after, it was fine to make it. You know, history is more important than protecting people's truth at this point. And so what I can tell you is that people would say, would have said, you know, you're not up for re-election until 2004, and you can predict the United States, particularly you're not running for president. But you know, the truth is that I heard that every one of those presidential candidates get up and say something and say, this is not a good idea. We should not be going to the board. And then the political culture, the leader and others say, what would we be able to do to stop what they're doing if they're doing to the board? Also, so that became the fix. So it's pragmatic fix. And then you have this tragic one of three people there. Some of the people who were appropriate for the who managed to set that motion and how the political theater, after saying those words at close office, walked out of the door and voted for this election, it set so many of our people to the room. And that was one of the saddest things I had ever seen for somebody to do. The guy that really had a terrible was told us. He was writing. He was saying, you know, he was saying the argument that you would vote for it. He was living very hard times for the process. Body of the election, he voted for against the war, and he did vote. And the last time I ever saw him, I was coming to the Senate chamber and he was leaving the Senate chamber 2 days before he was going to the Senate. And I said, you're up by 9 points to the floor. You're going to win. And he got this big smile on his face. That he knew he had done the right thing. He was going to win. That's the last time I ever saw him. They've done the right thing. They got the right thing.
What and I want to talk about some of the lessons that clearly weren't learned in the memory side. So when you look back at the future, or I mean, obviously, we just literally finished 20-year war in Afghanistan, and you know, what we did in Iraq is going to resonate for generations and generations. When you look back in the wake of 9/11 in terms of the most problematic things that were done by our government and the legacy that they will have. I mean, you know, I mean, I guess the question is on some level, like, there's stuff that you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube, as it were, on a lot of these things. What are those things that are the most sort of toxic of this toothpaste that's out of those tubes?
Well, you know, one of them would be, of course, this idea of military authority and part of the public president is completely this idea that Article 2 of the Constitution allows the president to do whatever he wants, and the idea that Congress is supposed to declare war is sort of a dead letter. That is that has gotten worse and worse throughout the 20th century and the 17th century. And this made it even worse when John Dewey was the author of the Legal Counsel writing opinions that really has no basis in the Constitution at all. So this was a very bad proof that the Congress was very docile, did not stand up for its authority under the Constitution and to involve in decisions about whether to go to war or whether to get out of the war. And only now, recently, controversial bipartisan senators from people like Tim Kaine and Virginia trying to come together and do this congressional authority. They're talking about redoing the authorization for use of military force in Iraq, which is progress. Less so with regard to the Afghanistan authority, which needs to be revealed. And the same thing goes for the Patriots. They made some changes a couple of years ago. There was a couple of things modified, but basically, those authorities for the government essentially go to the foreign intelligence surveillance work secret work. You have to see personal records of people who haven't been changed. And so these legacies the thing is, generally say there's two things. One is, whenever you have, there's going to be some overreach. It doesn't make it right. We are against it. And the face of the data, for example, if anyone's complaining about Japanese, then the Japanese Americans for a lot of people. That's one thing. The second thing is even more sinister is the conscious decision to exploit the moment, to exploit the opportunity to get something, to get more cracking down on people that are living. And that's the danger. Post January 6th, our little piece in the Journal said, look, we have to have accountability for the people who did this and that did this. What? But let's not create a board that are used to get Black Lives Matter and people in the protesting and fighting. Which is what has happened too often. This is a moment of vigil because people they take this opportunity cynically to further restrictions of freedom, further enhance executive power over the politics.
And even if they're not aware that they're doing it, right? I mean, you're setting up an apparatus that, in many instances, you never know who could be the next president. It could be Donald Trump.
I think there are enough lessons from using the homeland security knowledge, Trump and Portland and others to see that there are plenty of people who are doing it consciously, as well as people who are doing it in good faith. Like really, there is a way to be more careful about this and maybe some of the judgment and further.
What was your sense of the Obama presidency in terms of some of these things? I mean, during the Obama presidency, you mentioned John Yoo, who was in the Office of Legal Counsel, wrote many of the documents that basically argued for the authority for the president to do all sorts of things, from torture to other unilateral measures. During the Obama years, we had things like the establishment sort of like bringing in from the fold almost the legal authority to assassinate American citizens. We have on Walkie as one. I think there were others. There was a Tuesday meeting when they were looking at targets. We still have a secret fly list that exists, that persists. The torture was never. We have laws on the books that outlaw torture, but we never reiterated those laws. It was sort of banished by executive authority or order, as opposed to sort of being ensconced in some type of legal authority. You have very little accountability for anything that happened during the Bush years. And what, even the Obama years, what did that do to the trajectory of where we were at that time?
Well, it was very necessary, and maybe I can give some President Obama and another president Manuel. This was an area that was important. I attended the Constitution Subcommittee in the fall before the election 2008. Well, the area we had 26 areas where civil liberties found by whoever the new president was. And I thought based on his vote and his role important on his work and vote in the Senate, he was going to be very strong. He was strong at trying to get rid of strong Congress. The Congress was not his fault, but he was, I would say, fairly strong in social issues. But on many other issues, I'm afraid he was condemned by the CIA and by the military and by a number of arguments that, frankly, because of his experience, he was deferential in a way that actually Joe Biden was not. Joe Biden, even though people are doing exercise every time, he was the one challenging the ability of growth of the Afghanistan police, but he wasn't accepting the lines of military that were jamming back and forth in the decades in the Senate. So his experience there is something that led him to be a little more cautious. So I would say that it's an opportunity to fix many of these things is yes. Some things were fixed, certainly in most regards. You're right. The killing of the people then was one of those examples that was pretty stunning. That the American citizens were noticed for due process. No judge was involved at all. It could have been. So I remember being very concerned about that. So yes, it was an opportunity missed in some respects.
Joe Biden's reluctance in taking us out of Afghanistan, and I think there was one gets the sense that there was a tremendous amount of resistance to that in foreign policy and defense circles and whatnot. Yet, as we leave, we launch a drone attack that appears to have killed nearly 10 children, maybe at least, and half a dozen more citizens, maybe a little more than that. There is a sense that we're incapable of learning any lessons from this, even if we are generous, I think, with the motivation.
Okay. Well, it's funny because a couple of Republicans were create some of the best phrases about this and they learned from it. All foreign politicians who said, you basically killed basically the United States. And that's funny. Another Republican bill talking about mission creep in Somalia. Well, this is what happens here. I voted for the Afghanistan war because I wanted to vote yes and nothing and get out. Even though I voted for it, I was the first candidate that proposed getting out of there. As early as 2008, proposed a withdrawal timeline extradition of Iraq because I felt it would never change. Exactly what Biden said. Only it was 13 years later. And all these things trying to micromanage a situation like this with drones, that would never work. And that's what you get yourself into if you try to, do the Asian way. In a place where you simply can't do this without too much terrible sacrifice of American life and American resources. So it's a very painful thing, and we go way too long, and it's much worse because of the way it is.
I want to turn a little bit to politics more generally since 2001. You were a senator from 93 to 2011. You crossed that divide, and on some level, I also think that the election of 2000, in many respects, you're someone obviously a member of the judiciary, you sat on the Constitution Committee. I would imagine were quite surprised by the Supreme Court even looking at the Bush v. Gore case, aside from their rulings. But how much has 9/11, or how much has over the course of those 30 years our politics changed? I mean, I know, I remember when you were a sitting senator, you were very much an institutionalist. I remember being frustrated by your insistence on voting for a president's nominees and that type of deference. I was very frustrated by that. But it was a principled stand that you had. And I think to a certain extent, your perspective has changed on that, but more so because things have changed in the context. We talk about that change, and what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I try to take a view that the Senate institution was a place where people could work together and could work together as part of the country. And in many ways, we like that. In 1960, a number of years, it was not always one just trying to talk it together. It's important to remember our situation was generally pretty far left. The nomination. But basically, things have involved more. But there's a lot of stuff that's taken a lot of time. I don't know, example I gave you, those who don't have presidents, like the way that the president, that's their flavor, you might not like it. Unless that person has an ethical problem.
É mais direto que outras coisas. É metodologia muito direta para aquilo que vocês vão precisar.
Sim, sim, aquela cadeira é importante mesmo. Vai dar jeito.
But basically, the president was going to get this trust. So when it came to John Roberts, I thought, this guy is certainly not my cup of tea. This guy is way too conservative because I think he doesn't care about the service. But I voted for him.
A minha partida estava a pedir fotos.
O quê? Do casamento?
This concern with ideology, if they look at all the cases where there's a corporations involved in this, you never voted this corporation on behalf of millions. I didn't feel that people would understand. So, to me, making sensible distinctions between nominees, not based on party or ideology, but based on the fact that that was basically just the one disclosed message wrong. So the philosophy are in. Now, that changes because now that they've adopted it, it's really part of the, and this is what our American Constitution society is all about, and that's what American Constitution is. And we are trying to respond to what is essentially the defense of the United States Supreme Court after the story of the Supreme Court. And we are trying to make it clear to people that what's happening is the federal society of Trump administration voters, where we have an outrageously white, male, very young judiciary that is not reflecting American people and not reflect the society we live in. And so we are working very hard with success to get the Biden administration to start reversing because they've been great damage to it. And so, that is not something I really expected to do because I never would have thought that they would be that disrespectful themselves for the traditions of bipartisanship, letting President Obama have his nominee, of course letting President Obama and Mark Sullivan.
Quer respeitar?
Once they smash all at that point you have to say, wait, there has to be reparation, there has to be recognition. Maybe someday we can get back to some sense of comedy, but it doesn't exist. And so our organization is eager to look at this, expanding cyber, possibly that becomes something that's been happening because they have stolen the court. And now you have an increasingly less legitimate institution that is deciding things almost every day. Where do you get the questions from? That we say, I was just going to say, in that regard, I should also note that it's gone largely unreported, but Biden is, at the very least, been very aggressive in filling federal judiciary seats, and has done so with a diversity that we haven't really seen in a couple of decades. And not only just, and by diversity, I'm not talking just from a racial or ethnic or gender background, but I'm talking about fields of the law which have been underrepresented in the judiciary state. The President Biden has been terrific. Frankly, this is what we do. Organization, 53 local groups across the country that produce the names of people who are diverse in full respect. This is the court. African Americans, Latino, Latinx people, LGBTQ plus people, but also people that have co-produced, people that have been public defenders, people who have their criminal defenders. And this is actually happening. So this is becoming more and more reported, weekly reported now because it's a big success story, frankly, compared to the previous two Democratic administrations. This is an outstanding beginning. And we are very pleased to be working on this on a daily basis.
I think there was a heightened awareness of the failure of the Obama administration to fill these seats and the implications of it. And you mentioned we are reporting as far as I know, we're reporting in the afternoon of the 31st. If the Supreme Court does not enjoin Texas from its law that basically empowers citizens to sue abortion providers, there's an argument that Roe v. Wade has been effectively rolled back in Texas. Let me ask you, what is the most disturbing trend that you're seeing on the Supreme Court in terms of, there's been a number of decisions made through the shadow docket just in the past week or two. They were made in Mexico. The second one was the eviction moratorium. And there's been others. And the shadow docket, we should tell people, just sort of the Supreme Court using its emergency powers that I guess would be equivalent to like a summary judgment without having to issue any type of decision, without having to justify the decision in any way, so that we can examine it and so that people have a sense of what the law is, and without any real accounting for which justice deciding which way. What else are you seeing, or is that one of the more disturbing aspects of the scene in terms of the book.
That's a very important because in the first
Há bocado, há 5 minutos, eu vi que os gatos deitaram os óculos abaixo, não olhei. Estava em cima da cama. Foi assim minutos. Este cara tem muito lento.
Para foder tudo. É um talento para foder tudo.
Os cores estão. Só
Tratar
tratar de
aquilo
linha.
do avião do hotel.
Sim, mas nós precisamos ter uma coisa rápida. Só que eu, por exemplo, a tratar da linha acontecem coisas destas. Daí não vejo.
Já vi. Mesmo assim vê-se aqui. Mas tem que estar bem buscar.
Focaste. Se aproximares, quanto mais te aproximas, mais vejo. Portanto, eu tenho que começar a retocar linhas, retocar linhas. Depois retocar os tipos. Se bem que agora, quando eu retocar a linha, já vejo mais
Aquele
cuidado.
dedo também está ali.
Sim, mas ainda estou a fazer. Estou a andar a volta, por exemplo, agora, com esta que é mais grossa, estou só a ver as linhas com tudo.
Estes aqui é para ficar mesmo assim. Olha, este aqui também está feliz.
Sim, mas isso é as linhas mais finas. As mais finas, mais
Mas
grossas.
tu não estás a fazer estas merdas com o trabalho do caralho.
Eu digo já que não fica bem.
Mas claro que fica bem, mas não estou a dizer o contrário. Realmente é, quando escolheres um gajo para viver, vê qual é o nível de paciência que ele tem de ter que pintar um quadro. Porque é bom sinal.
Não sei.
Tens uma paciência do caralho.
É a paciência do Miguel para os diários todos. E o resto não.
É diferente, o trabalho dele é mais de impulso. Tu és mais maratonista, ele é um sprinter.
Já sei que fazer sprints.
Sim, mas tu é um trabalho fundo.
Sim, ok, tenho que
Implica.
aguentar mais tempo e tal.
É diferente.
E controlar mais a frustração
E eu agora não sei como é que vou descalçar esta bota.
do hotel.
Olha, e estamos a gravar isto, a falar disto e daquilo. É uma coisa muito lenta a fazer. Young, como é que a gente faz isto, amor? Está com os vinhos. Olha,
Os hotéis também não são estranhos ao Covid.
meu amor. Ai, que grande beijo, meu Deus. Ai, tanto beijo. Ai, ele está doidinho. Está doidão. Está doidão. Meu cão está doidão. Que coisa boa, o meu cão. Chegar a cá e ter este cão. Este focinho. Mais porco. E mijão. Ai, este é um mijão.
That is my interview with
Parabéns.
Senator Russ Feingold. What strikes me about the senator
Caros senhores, está por choros.
is probably one of the most
Deixa-me só falar aqui com a Valdez.
for a long
Eu não estou a
time.
dizer para fazeres nada contra.
And certainly one of the generally, I think, like the more normal you are, right, the tougher it is to get reelected in some instances, in the nature of our politics. But there it is, one of the legacies of the 9/11. We'll probably talk about 9/11 as well.
Não é contigo,
tomorrow.
São
Ryan
gênios.
will join us to discuss that and also the current negotiations
Já tivemos cenas
on
tuas
the
ilustrações
reconciliation
políticas.
bill and the implications
Já tive a descarregar
of
vídeos
Nelson's daughter's
YouTube
incredible
destes.
collection.
É fácil, afinal.
Those of you
Não
watching
há
us on
assim.
Peacock, it's
É melhor do que
goodbye.
estar a-
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. For the rest of you, of course, now it's time for my update on my food poisoning. Things are better. I'm on the mend. It's
Eu
quite
trouxe
an
comida para
experience,
ti. Se és uma barulho para baixo.
not one that I
Esta
hope
hora
to
até acabou.
but it's certainly something. We're gonna do that.
Se todos fossem eu às 7 da tarde, deixar cair uma coisinha que está a brincar.
Should we do that right now?
Sim, se for só uma vez, ninguém
Parabéns.
Because
Tá,
it's just too-
reservation
First off,
change.
Like I said, Joe Biden tonight is going to.
Ela Tatiana Santos, TAP informs you that some changes have occurred on your flights. Please check the details below. Thursday, 21st October,
The CDC,
original flight, new flight, Friday,
or at least the federal government, could encourage airlines
às 7 e tal, blá 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 blá.
to require a vaccination to get on an airplane.
Confirm or change flights. Não sei se temos que carregar aqui qualquer coisa. Eu devias ter recebido isto. Será que só me deu o meu e o teu? Não. Não, a referência é a mesma, é da Booking Reference.
Mas no mail, certo?
Sim, homem.
Não é que eu recebi mails e não recebi esse. Não estou a perceber. Já ver se é para o spam ou isso.
There are certainly people out there.
Não é?
It depends on on what reports you want to see in terms of like,
É que só mandaram para o meu passageiro.
There is some polling to suggest
Mas a reserva é a mesma, eles mandaram o reservation number.
are doing so because they don't
TAP
have the
apologizes
time,
for any inconvenience the situation may cause.
enough. They are concerned about losing time at work because of their reaction to the vaccination. There's still
Eu acho que tens de telefonar para lá, lembras-te
who
do
are
número.
just refuse to get a vaccination.
Porque se só mudaram o meu e não mudaram o teu, estamos
Crime is
fodidos.
largely reserved for fairly wealthy people, relatively speaking. If you have time to fly, you probably have time to get vaccinated.
Yeah, money is funded to go on that business.
Indeed. And certainly, people traveling, why the EU is starting to restrict U.S. travelers, increases the transmission of COVID. Doesn't necessarily happen on the plane per se.
Isto é um botão para tu carregares.
Sim.
Isto é o mesmo
Situations in travel in general, what they do once they travel.
Carrega.
It's time for some vaccine mandates for something like airline travel. Seems reasonable to me at this stage.
Flight changed.
People don't want to get a vaccine. Fair enough. But
Extras on this flight, Mr. Tomokuya.
at one point, we got to get back to some level of normalcy. And you see all these reports.
Temos dois aqui.
Então tem de se pôr a que serve.
Aceita
Não
ou escolher outro, mas
não temos a opção.
Largely
Não vamos escolher outro.
what's happening in the community.
Cancel journey.
And so, anyways, Joe Biden will be making those vaccines.
Era o que mais faltava, eu ainda ter de pagar. There are no additional costs. Pois com certeza.
And again, the clock is ticking.
Sim, não, vamos ver se não há additional costs. Agora depende dos
Não, additional costs eles vão ver, não vou falar para o hotel. Isso não tem nada a ver com
eu estou a dizer que não há. Não há lá deles.
Greg Gutfeld failed. He didn't really Donald Trump, but here's the thing to keep in mind with this clip, like we said earlier. This is a comedy show. So, as you watch this, understand we did not put in the
Pronto, deixa-me lá ir ao booking.
We'll probably have
Olha,
O que
Tel.
foi?
Estava a tirar a tua capa.
Porra.
Rouba, está a roer por isso tudo.
Jung! Ele teve tão quietinho este tempo todo. Os gajos já destruíram os óculos, já destruíram. Eu chego à meia porta de mal, assim, mas não vem.
Alterar datas. Alterar datas vai ter de ser menos valor. Porque é menos uma noite.
Não sei o que a gente dizer. Eles não viessem um dia depois, mas.
Where's the joke? I is the joke that it's
Young!
Trump met his wife in Mar-a-Lago and he
Porra.
the city.
Está tudo a botar bem.
Perdemos é o transfer do aeroporto, apanhamos o táxi, cara. Mas em vez de gastarmos 500 euros, vamos gastar 300 e tal.
Why were they laughing?
Ok.
A alteração de data bem sucedida. Chegamos dia 22, saímos dia 25.
Like a Russian's known to not get vaccinated. Go back a little bit. I don't like. This is such forced laughter.
384 euros.
I can't follow any of that. Like, what did the idiot say? Like, well, you know,
Não é
she's British.
Tudo.
Like, what?
Honestly, it would have been the exact same.
Mas eu vou mandar mensagem ao alojamento na mesma para justificar a cena.
Well, anything with an ish, maybe on the internet. Because if they said she's French, they wouldn't have worked in the same way. All right, so go back a little bit. I'm trying to figure out why they
Posso
decided to
mandar,
do
exatamente.
the everybody. Or she's Russian.
Yes.
Ou seja, nos.
Is she not doing it? Does she have some kind of
Eu fico a estar espremido que a mãe não está cá, pelos vistos.
Or she's Russian.
Yes.
Também estou a olhar a moça. Eu.
Very smart. Yeah. Very hard-headed.
Yes.
I think I know your wife a little bit, right?
Yes.
But she's great, and let her do what she wants to do. I got vaccinated, and I feel very good. I think we saved millions and millions of people were, 1917, they say almost 100 million, approximately 100 million people died.
Yeah.
I think we could have been into that situation because it was very bad. And now, if you're vaccinated, the other thing that shows that if you do get sick, you don't get sick.
I compared it to like news from 100 years ago instead of just how other countries dealt with this exact same pandemic and how many people they lost.
Yeah, let's compare it to 100 years ago when we didn't really even have, like a highway system. Let's compare it to 100 years ago.
The germ theory is
Just learning about the germ theory.
Young,
We're doing much better.
Young! Well, we'll see you.
Give me a break. How many people died in America? I think it was actually somewhere like not dramatically different from where we are today. It was between 500 and 850,000 who died. Now, to be fair, the country was about a third the size it is today in terms of.
Pronto, já mandei.
But
Mandei o comprovativo da data. Eles, já a alteração foi feita sem qualquer
Taxa.
taxa, exatamente. Eles retêm uma parte, mas eles vão devolver esse dinheiro. É igual, a gente vai pagar enquanto lá tiver. Portanto, o que vamos pagar em vez de 500 e tal é 380 e tal.
Sim, ainda estava dentro da.
Sim, não há problema. E de qualquer forma, eu quis mandar uma mensagem privada ao alojamento a dizer que as únicas opções que tínhamos era ou mudar a data ou cancelar e que nós estávamos a viajar na nossa lua de mel, apesar de sabermos que perdemos o direito ao táxi gratuito, queríamos à mesma ir só naquela vez eles são fofinhos.
Não, o táxi, se não desligar de champanhe para o não.
Deixa eu lá ver se eles são fofinhos. Eu gosto de fazer estas coisas só naquela. Já, a minha experiência diz-me que ser fofinha com as pessoas faz com que as pessoas sejam fofinhas comigo. Deixa eu ver.
But even still, don't compare that. Compare it to what happened in the rest of the world. Why isn't anybody laughing? I'm kicking Wilson's ass. Why isn't anyone laughing? Yeah, well, that's the other thing. There was a world war going on through that pandemic too. Everybody also like,
Mas hoje tive colo.
the idea that you had all these troops.
Mas aguentei-me.
Eu ia perguntar isso, só que não perguntar isso no seguinte.
Ah, está paciência.
Não queria subir sobre para amanhã, não. Queria subir sobre.
Pois eu gosto mesmo de saber.
Sim, a ver se vai subir para amanhã. Mais, o resto não
You don't get sick like they were before. You don't die.
Eu tenho um fascista de se dizer
But I also say that let her have her freedom. It's another word freedom, right?
Yeah.
Fascista de se também queria não ir.
All right, look. There's so much wrong with this interview that could be fixed by a good soundboard. They did an okay job. You can only imagine, like, right before the interview, they all said, like, remember.
O braço está na Jamaica.
So I want, hey, listen, I want everyone on the crew to listen up. Put the light down for a second and listen.
É verdade, foi. E o Rafa respondeu à cena que fazia.
O quê?
O Rafa respondeu à cena do
Só se
fazer.
deu.
Because you had COVID. And my wife, you met my wife, I know that 6 years ago in Mar-a-Lago. She's still not gotten vaccinated. And I keep talking to her to get her to get vaccinated. And she hasn't.
Ah!
What would you say to her?
É as unhas, ele quando ele desliza pelas minhas pernas.
Tem que aprender a não fazer isso.
As alturas que ela tem aí, as alturas que ela postinhas e as
Ele
pernas
tem
não
que
sempre
aprender que há
todas
coisas que não pode fazer. Só que ele não vai aprender se deixares, porque eu não ganho isso. Eu só ir quando tu comes. Realmente.
I feel very good. I think you saved millions and millions of people worldwide. In 1917, they say almost 100 million approximately people died.
Yeah.
I think we could have been into that situation because it was very bad. And now, if you're vaccinated, the other thing that shows that if you do get sick, you don't get sick like they were before, meaning you don't die. So I would recommend, but I also say that let her have her freedom. It's another word freedom, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
with you, she needs freedom.
I like this part that you know the word freedom.
He said freedom. Wow. He said freedom. Anybody in here believe in freedom in the house? My God, what an embarrassment. All right, folks, we're going to head into the fun half. That was a little taste of fun, wasn't it?
Well, so that's random.
Oh, that's right. Holy cow. I got totally confused. It's Thursday. Folks, stick around. We got Brandon and Matt joining us. Just a reminder, you can support the show by becoming a member at jointhemajority.report.com. Don't forget, justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. You use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. We want to bring in Brandon Sutton and Matt Binder. We're going to join you in the fun house today. Oh, Emma's out today. I guess I
Ele teve lá no vídeo, agora tem um dia como a toda. Eu não tenho que levar apenas que vive assim antes, que levar isto, não quer dizer que fique perfeito. Mas se eu digo que falta só 2 ou 3 linhas quando voltar, também não preciso
Ai, que bruto, man!
Estás a bater de minha mulher, pá.
Não, está a bater na mãe dele. É bem mais grave do que bater na tua
As
mulher.
coisas.
I mean, I'm not totally recovered, but recovered enough. So, Matt, how have you been? What's happening on Doom these days? I've been
A minha mãe, ai, foi maravilhoso ontem, ai, adorei. Ah, mas pronto, também se percebe, o Miguel tem de servir para alguma coisa. Não, mas depois disso, ele é realmente muito bom naquilo que faz. Pois é, também o Rafa, são os dois muito bons. Por isso é que eu com eles estou super à vontade. 2 ensaios merdosos e aquilo sai bem.
Anyway,
Estava apoiado como
Last week I had on Dr. Eric Osborne, who is a medical doctor who's been treating older patients who had cut ties with that frontline care group, the FLCCC, who has been quite controversial recently for their pushing of ivermectin.
Para vocês dois, ninguém vos pode aturar. É o que eu tenho a dizer.
Last week is getting really great reviews. I don't usually say that even when it happens, but this one's been especially good comments on it. Basically, all about ivermectin and what the deal is with ivermectin, why this has become such a controversial thing online, and why people are taking the horse taste version of it. And so everyone should check that out at doomcast.com or at youtube.com/MattBinder. And then tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be a brand new episode of the show, live streaming. So tune in, youtube.com/MattBinder.
great. Brandon Sutton, how are you, Brandon?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Dave? I feel like I haven't spoken to you in a while.
I know it's been a long time. I don't know if you caught the episode where I had Suns Out, Guns Out. I hope you didn't find that intimidating in any way.
Honestly, I'm just happy that I'm being able to spread the gospel of lifting for all of my many fans.
Not quite lifting yet, but I did. I mean,
Ai,
I did that.
Manuel.
Does that count?
Já estás com vontade de ir para a faculdade outra vez.
Yeah.
Olha que...
Mas é incrível como disse quando tu chegaste, né?
Brandon Sutton, obviously the co-host of the Discourse.
Mas quando eu estava
Vai chamar a atenção.
What's happening on the Discourse?
Vai chamar a atenção quando ele está sozinho comigo é igual. Olha lá, estou eu que fiz tudo para o cabrão no cão não me foder a vaca que o Gonçalo me ofereceu e a vaca já está sem um olho. Eu há bocado estava a falar com o Miguel já estava do outro lado a cagar-se a rir.
Foi quando eles estavam lá com o cão. Quando eu cheguei, estava lá a faca em cima da cama e tirei logo de cima da
E onde é
cama.
que está o olho? Não encontraste?
Eu achei que ele não tinha feito na vaca, não percebi. Só que ele recuou depois. É que eu acho que ele tinha um olho.
Não
Mas
sei.
foi daqui a vez que eu vi mexer na vaca.
Se eu encontrar o olho ainda tento pôr, mas...
Olho. Saí do cocó depois disso.
Já saiu, entretanto.
Are you
Se ele é
guys
eu,
in
não sei eu.
the same area?
No Cocó não. Tem visto.
Já passou sim, então, então é que nem eu. Já passou o tempo da digestão.
Mas quando é que tu reparaste? Quando é que reparaste que eu estava hoje?
I did the show yesterday. I was like teetering on the edge with the remnants of food poisoning.
Oh my god, I actually did it a few weeks ago. Well, let me tell you, that's not so. So I will
Oh, you
applaud
need
you.
to tell me that.
I will applaud you for getting up in the middle of your stomach churning, boiling like the seas and maybe get and still enjoying that.
I will tell you, on Monday, I was lying on the floor in the fetal position for like 9 hours.
Neste momento já sou membro integrado não doutorado do Centro de História.
I just think that you get risk because that's what you start with. That's going to be part of your life, big part of your life. I mean, every like I just say it's part of my my home game is like fetal position back and forth. So
that sounds like fun. I probably may not be. All right, we're going to take a quick break and head into the fun half of oh wait, Matt Leck, what's happening to Matt Leck in Media Universe?
yeah, last night we actually talked about this writing dream story on the Epicens, as well as this story of Heather Brash, Michael Mackey's daughter, lying about having a business degree from West Virginia University and getting the university to cover up for her in a way that led to multiple people being fired. Pretty amazing. We also had Brian Mayer, Telesor, and Brazil Wire talking about this sort of Bolsonaro protest from the Supreme Court and what that portends and what it means to sort of Bannon's involvement with that. So last night, left breaking, income the council's left breaking, we are closing on 900 pictures.
Deixa eu mandar uma mensagem ao Gustavo.
All right. See you in the fun house. 6462577.
Por acaso é bom porque esta aula vou ter com a Inês, o Carlos e o Gustavo. E temos uma colega chilena e temos bem brasileiros e nada de gays. Os gays vieram todos ter comigo no final da aula. Tipo, gay magnet. Tipo, gostei bem do teu tema, olha, vi umas coisas, escrevi um monte de livros, não sei o quê. E foi a chilena que foi sentando na minha mesa e eu pronto. Ok. Portanto, a chilena, pelos vistos, deve ser lésbica. Porque eu tenho esta cena. Mr. Bush. Olha, já estamos no centro de história. Já lhe li, deixe-me pôr trelas. Está para ser aos cães.
Eu imaginei que fosse isso. Eu não imaginei que fosse uma outra coisa assim. Eu não sei quando este fala dos cães que é dizer uma coisa sempre como outra. Como há pessoas que falam dos filhos e dos cães.
Mas eu comentei, eu ri-me e depois disse aos alunos e depois disse kidding, isso era muito hardcore.
Mas não foi Gustavo?
Não estou a falar com o Valdez.
Pensei que era Gustavo.
Não. É que as minhas conversas com o Valdez são, se tu leres os nossos textos, tu pensas assim, estás a falar sério, esta é a tua orientadora. Não é tipo a tua colega da primeira.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus? I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the garage can't all agree with this. Psych, the alpha male
Tu falavas do outro que morreu no Masterchef Country. O Lagarde.
Sim.
Estás a ouvir estas imitações?
Sim.
Estás a ouvir imitações, não é?
Sim.
Este foi o gajo do programa que morreu, aos 40 anos.
Ok.
Morreu agora e continua no.
Olha, este meu amigo, escrever filmes de terror é facílimo, querem ver? Gajos vão num sítio remoto na Europa e são sacrificados a deuses pagãos. Gajos vão num sítio remoto nos Estados Unidos e são torturados com uma família de freaks. Gajos vão ao Japão e são assombrados com uma gaja japonesa com o cabelo em frente dos olhos. Pronto.
Chegou lá, mas ele está a copiar já histórias feitas, isso não é fácil.
Mas há 500 do mesmo tipo. Ele está a dizer que isto
São os maus.
é um modelo, pois.
De tal maneira que há um modelo que agora já há filmes que causam com modelo, né? Tipo aquele que a gente viu italiano e outros. E há outro assim. Há uma equipa de filmagens também, mas mais esotérico.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen.
O Gustavo também não sabia que já estava no centro de história. Eu mandei-lhe a dizer e ele mandou logo 500 mil corações.
We just had, I wish people could have seen this, but Matt Binder and I had a little clash as to who was going to control the phone system today. And then I said, well, I'm going to be I was going away. And then as soon as I told him,
Não, coitãozinho.
Então eu penso, agora lembrando-me daquela história, havia um gajo que tinha um distintivo, como um gajo do gajo.
Sim, sim.
Eu disse isso.
Years since we've done this together. I mean, I've probably been on as a 10, 15, maybe 20-minute guest more recently, but in terms of being on the show with you,
this is like a total throwback Thursday for us. What do you guys want to? Is there any clips that stands out to you? You guys want to start with?
I see you guys haven't done yet. I've not watched yet.
No, what about also? No, we haven't done this. Let's do. You want to set it up, Matt? Go ahead.
So Matt Walsh of The Blaze continues to be, quite frankly, the biggest idiot, I guess, on the right, and that's really quite the moniker for him to have, because there's quite a few idiots on the right, but I feel like this guy constantly finds a way to just step on it, and this is no different. Here is Matt Walsh, just recently, I think it was just yesterday actually, not the day before, but it was trending online yesterday because it got out, where he had some hot takes about women working in the sports.
Olha, desfez o burro todo outra vez, está aqui porque aqui por todo lado. Eu estou a
It would be fair to say that all female sports reporters are like me. But even so, I must say, this situation only demonstrates why I personally prefer for sports broadcasts, especially football broadcasts, to be handled mostly by men. Lindsay, though worse than the average, even as far as female sports reporters go, is definitely not the only female to enter into this mostly male space and seek to feminize it. She wants the football stadium to be quiet and gentle, considerate, respectful of personal space. She wants it to be a more feminine environment. She's not trying to assimilate herself into the culture of football then. She is rather hoping that they assimilate themselves to her. This is a problem across our culture. Sports just happen to be an area where the problem is especially pronounced and obvious. Females enter into areas that have typically catered and mostly belong to men, and then, often quite successfully, they try to change that, to emasculate, and thereby destroy the primary reason for their existence in the first place. This phenomenon is so far-reaching in football, especially, that they're even changing the rules now to make the game itself more gentle and feminine. Football is, still violent, but it's less violent than it used to be. This year, they're even focusing on penalizing players who say mean or rude things to each other on the football field. And they're doing this during the preseason. Looks like the NFL.
Yeah, jeez. So just to clear up what Lindsay was talking about, this is from WTOC Sports Director Lindsay Gilley, who said she was all kinds of violated during the college football matchup between Clemson and Georgia. The girl was worked with Savannah Ford, CBS affiliate for 2019, where fans touched her and her football while she set up for riots during the game on Saturday.
First off, so in other words, she was assaulted, sexually assaulted.
Obviously, it's her fault for entering the male arena.
What is like? First off, I wish that Emma were here today because I'm just. And then second off, like, who wants to place a bet? Let's just start with the most sort of like low-hanging fruit on Matt Walsh's physical ability when it comes to playing A-Dubs. I mean, like, honestly.
Ideally, Wire versus Majority Report basketball game, please.
Let's play any sport. Any sport. And literally, and I probably got 25 years on Matt Walsh turns of age, and I will outplay him at any sport.
This is the dodgeball. Not just because I watch the movie again, but because I have quite the arm on me, and I'm going to be a ringer.
I would imagine that you could seriously send Matt Walsh to the hospital with one of those red rubber balls. But the other thing about this is like, this guy, it's like he grew up on Rush Limbaugh from like 20 years ago and is still rerunning this thing. Like, I'm old enough to remember Lisa Olson had these charges about players in the New England Patriots locker room in the 80s, and it was grotesque then. Just go back, I mean, like the idea that like somehow women, and they're doing this across the culture, right? Like the things that he said are, well, the things that he associates with women as opposed to men is absurd. The reason why they're trying to make football less violent is because people are getting brain injuries.
That's what I was thinking of Will Smith movie, Concussion. Like, I didn't watch it, but that was the whole thing a few years ago when I was in grad school. Like, it was coming out that, like, they had buried all that evidence that, like, players were having concussions and it was leading to them to commit suicide, have, die early in, like, their 50s, and, that's why they're trying to feminize the game when players can live past 55.
Yeah, because it's as for a sport, if LeBron James says, I'm not going to let my children play football because it's going to hurt their brains.
It's a big thing. Like, it's been a big thing, but especially got really big in like the mid 2000s. I remember specifically, there was an institute in Boston that basically studies this, and they collect, players donate their brains after they die, and they find out all these horrendous things. Like, for example, this blew up in 2007 when the pro wrestler Chris Benoit killed his wife and kids and committed suicide, and his brain got sent to this institute. They found that this 40-some-odd-year-old guy had the brain of like a 90-year-old because of all the concussions and hits in the brain. So it's become like an increasingly big thing where people are worried not only about whether they're getting hurt now, but whether they're going to survive in terms of later committing suicide or hurting somebody else.
Let's just take this out of the realm of football. I mean, this is just it's just absurd. Because he's saying that this is also sort of like something that's happening with the rest of our society, like it's being feminized. Like women are going into. I'm not sure what areas he's talking about that women don't belong in the rest of our society. But what is the opposite of emasculating? Like where is the word that means you're making it less feminine?
Feminized?
There is none. Like the concept of emasculation is there are normative values that are built into this, suggesting that like the state of normalcy and of the state of like vibrancy or virility is necessarily something to do with men. Like this guy's so regressive, and I don't know if is it like a hardcore Christian? Is that what's going on? He's like a Christian.
Yeah, he's a very religious guy. He used to be a blogger, like his own blog where he talked about his Christian family and their upbringing. He's one of those guys who are going on and on and on about kids shouldn't be wearing masks in school. I think he even showed up at one of these things, and turns out his kids don't even go to public school. They're homeschooled. They don't even go to school with other kids. Right. And he's demanding that other kids not wear masks when they go to school. It's amazing.
What do you think that, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, all the examples that I would imagine Matt Walsh and that kind of like very cup-focused right commentators think of examples of society becoming more feminized are always a deeply embarrassing things like, oh, there are women sports supporters now, and that's an example of how the sport is becoming feminized, and like all of the abuses that cheerleaders will face, like structurally in terms of like their contracts and like what they're expected to like promote themselves and lots of that doesn't count for like how it's still very masculine focused. Or when like the ad for like a Transformers toy isn't sufficiently like masculine. like the marketing copy for like a toy or soft drink is just a little too gender neutral. Like, I think the entirety of it. And I don't know, I think there's a big enough fan base for it that people can get that. It's embarrassing. It's just really embarrassing that all these people claim that, women at the gym make you feel like somehow less of a man because they have a pole dance classes at the gym. And that makes it less of a safe space. It's just deeply embarrassing. It's embarrassing that the entire like identity and something is like marketing copy developed by admin in the 80s while they're doing cocaine and telling you like, she is really changing. And now you're mad that like they don't have like really meal and that kind of cheating. It's embarrassing.
Do you think there's anyone under the age of like 35 that watches Matt Walsh and doesn't just go like, what is wrong with this dude? Like honestly, like we got calls when I was in America in 2005 or 6, I can't remember exactly when it was. We would get calls from people who didn't even need to rush Limbaugh complaining about Dick Durbin wearing a pink tie on the floor of the Senate, saying that this is a function of feminization of America. The idea that the color pink, I mean, like, what, how mentally, like, undeveloped do you have to be? The color pink, it's just like, are you serious? And, like, even then, like, that 5-year-old only has a problem with color pink because some moron that's they're associated with is just like, that's a girl's color. Who actually shows up at work and says, I'm going to be talking about this today. You know what I'd like to do is, I would like to put Emma and Matt Walsh on a Zoom call that is broadcast to as many people as possible. And they can start talking about football. And I wonder, like, how many seconds into it, not even minutes, would everyone realize Matt Walsh doesn't have a clue the depth of knowledge that Emma has relative to him in terms of football is like, it's like, I don't know, putting a me into a classroom with like a Nobel-winning, physicist in terms of being able to judge the physics. It would be embarrassing for this guy. And then, I don't know, I would justify his father. It really is impressive, though, to be, I don't know, talking about like the feminization of football at this stage.
I mean, even any fun fact the person will tell you too. Like Star Trek, that pink doesn't even always look like turtle color. It used to be a boy color. It's like a derivative of red. And so, like 150 years ago, like girls wore blue, and 150 years from now, who knows what blue color? But Dick Durbin was also just a big Kanye fan in the early 2000s, so that's why he's really cool. He's wrong on those things. It's really what I'm trying to say. But it's amazing that they can place that entire platform with all these imaginary, but also very small grievances. Because if we were like lie about something, we're talking to mad about it's not true. What was it really? Like the pink tie one, and like the tan, the famous tan stick that everyone's really talking about. They're just listening to lie about, I guess.
It's just funny though, like as a conservative content maker, I guess it's easier to talk about the reporter female reporter who got involved in company asking for people to grab her ass, than say like, hey, you should be spending money on infrastructure and tax the two.
Right, exactly. I'm not really reading into that. I'm just going to go with you, like, of course, football is getting too feminized. You know what it is? To have that kind of, like, to me, that just, like, immediately just, the first thing I hear when someone like that, particularly, like, at that age, right? Like, I mean, I'm going to say, like, a 75-year-old guy sitting around complaining about how, like, I like the back with boys and girls and girls, like, whatever it is. But somebody at Matt Walsh's age, it just seems to me like there's like internal struggles there that he's having issues with.
Well, this is the guy who the last time I spoke about him on this show was just a week or two ago when he was saying the only reason why Governor Christine Nolan is anybody is because she's a hot woman or something like that. Do you remember that, Matt?
Yeah, she said, like, and she's, what is it, like, maybe she's hot because I don't know what else she offers, or something like that, because she's
right. Oh, yeah, because she's under the age of 50. And because she's under the age of 50.
Right.
For like 60 seconds without like him stuff hotter without like the things that might be wrong with her that would make her less attractive and maybe to make her less valuable. But I think that you're right, can look up and go, but yeah, it just doesn't sound like it's native to him. I think it would be the but not necessarily the kind of old timey thing that like, Steve Crowder had the New York Times channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah, well, I think you said something interesting there, Brandon. But I don't think it is just the old people. I think he is also speaking to, like, I'm sure there's some, like, young, edgy, conservative, like, MAGA kids, like TikTok MAGA kids who go to watch Matt Walsh, and they would probably have that thought process too. So he is trying to be that middle ground for that 75-year-old Sam was talking about. And then these kids were just like, yeah, girls shouldn't be in sports because they're like in high school or whatever, and they haven't lived in the real world yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think he appeals less to the kids, but not maybe the edgy ones, but like the ones that prematurely like aged into like they're like 16-year-old Mark Levins or whatever. The kids who come to like high school and see, but exactly. Yeah, Wash kills with those kids.
Let's take a phone call. Calling from a 310 area code. Who's this? Where you calling?
Hi, is it me?
It is you.
Hi.
Who are you? Where are you calling?
Sorry, this is Stephanie from Alabama, from Montgomery, Alabama.
Stephanie from Montgomery, Alabama. What's on your mind, Stephanie?
So I had two things. The first was related to something that you guys talked about a while ago. I'm a public defender here in Alabama, and we've had a couple of great interviews with people talking about criminal reform and what are the and certain issues surrounding that. And I just wanted to talk a bit about the experience in Alabama because we have a huge problem of mass incarceration, obviously, but the way that manifests itself here is that the prisons are overcrowded, the federal government is suing Alabama, and they have been desperately trying to simultaneously reduce the number of people in prison and appear tough on crime. And so initially that started out as just trying to get people with nonviolent crimes out of prison as quickly as possible, and that worked for a while in reducing prison population, but it started to go back up, and it's all basically violent crimes. And so I really appreciated you having a couple of guests on talking about that phenomenon, that it's not just drugs, that it's not just nonviolent crime, but it's also a general rise in, quote unquote violent crimes. That isn't to say that every single incident or even those incidents people are actually physically harmed. But I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's really important to put that into the conversation about criminal reform, that we need to do broad structural society changes and poverty, focus on things like poverty reduction if we're going to do anything about criminal reform and getting rid of mass incarceration.
Well, I think
And the second thing,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I just think the
I
dynamic.
got another completely other thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the dynamic is not too dissimilar from like the way that we scapegoat schools in this country, which is we have societal problems, and instead of dealing with them directly, housing, poverty, I mean, basically those two, I think, in many respects, and we expect the schools to remedy it, or we expect the prisons to remedy it.
Yep.
And we lose sight of what the sort of like fundamental problems are. Now, which is not. I'm not of the opinion that there aren't crimes that aren't committed that are distinct from these broader societal issues. But these broader societal issues, I think, are a primary driver of these things. And there may be other issues too. I mean, in terms of crime, I think I think lead turned out to be an environmental, other environmental sort of toxins end up implicating people's mental states in many respects.
Absolutely. And childhood trauma
Yep.
and things like that. Yeah. And what just going into that, most of the cases that I handle are, murders and robberies and things like that. And the vast majority of cases that I have are situations where people feel that their life is threatened. Like when you just grow up in an environment where there's just constantly violence around you, the level of your desire to react quickly to a perceived threat is so high that when when you explain it to other people, like this person's acting in self-defense, and they're like, well, they could have done this, they could have done that, but they don't have that experience of growing up. Like I have a case now where, there was a 7-year-old girl who was shot, and her brother was around. She wasn't the target, and her young brother was right there. So that young brother, when he grows up, and that little girl, when they grow up, what is their reaction going to be if they feel a perceived threat? And so, and the vast majority, I would say, of my murder cases are cases like that. They're not cases where people are deliberately going out looking for trouble, trying to hurt people.
Yeah. Yep. Guys.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, sorry, I just yesterday you had a conversation and you talked a little bit about Cass Sunstein.
Yeah.
And he was a professor of mine, and my perception of him in his class was actually not one of primarily focusing on efficiency in the strictest sense of just, cost efficiency. And that one of the primary things that he wanted to bring in was how do we try to evaluate things that cannot be monetized or cannot be, that we talked a lot about, like car rear cameras, backup cameras in cars, and what's the value that you put on preventing children from dying, because that's the primary thing that is going to prevent. And so that was just something that I wanted to bring up, that was not my impression of him in his approach. Was not just strictly cost efficiency in the way that, say, like Reagan thought of it when he created ONG.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that Cass Sunstein has a, sort of a more, slightly more humanitarian perspective than Ronald Reagan.
Yes, of course.
That's a pretty low bar, it seems to me.
That is very true, agreed. Yeah,
that's a pretty low bar.
I don't doubt that.
Appreciate the call.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, I think compared to Ronald Reagan, you're going to come out looking pretty good, it seems to me. Should we do this Bill O'Reilly thing? We were talking about Bill O'Reilly before the show, and I was just thinking, what's going on with Bill O'Reilly? Like, how much money could he need at this point, and how much could he be making if he needed that much from being on Newsmax? But he's still out there, like a ghost. This guy's so thirsty.
I don't think I've ever seen one of these guys drop off the face of the planet like he has. Like the level he was at, and just disappeared. He's done.
He was a thing like Fox News. And that's what happened. They said it like Fox News. If you look at the movie Bombshell was about, I maybe I watched like a trailer for it a few years ago. It's about the criminalization of Fox News. It's really because
It's true.
Já o é.
Está a morrer, está a tirar tudo fora, está.
Fox News, former Fox News, I should say, Bill O'Reilly, with former Trump press secretary Sean Spicer and Newsmax Lindsay Keith.
Isto. Este caganito.
Here it is.
Tempo.
I feel
Eu vou tirar isto do cliente.